Okay, so today's fun topic is going to be fuel tanks. Ugh. My Cherokee fuel tank leaking. I'm not sure where from. Somewhere on the driver's side, on the lower half of it, and it leaks. It drips. You can always smell it. It's really annoying. So, I figure I should replace it. Before everything sparks up and blows me up. That'd be my luck. Finish the whole truck, take it out, spark the fuel tank, and it burns to the ground. There's also a real big dent on the passenger side. I'm not sure how that happened, but yeah, that'll be interesting. So, we're going to drop the fuel tank. We're going to put a new tank in, new pump, and all that good stuff. Now, these tanks aren't held in by much. You got two straps, one over here and one over there. Or maybe it's leaking from the top. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. Let's check that out. Wouldn't that be a bitch? But the strap is held into the frame with a little hook on this side. And then if you come in over here, you got a real long bolt or a nut dealio. So we're going to disconnect the vacuum lines and everything, or the fuel lines, I'm sorry, and then support the tank with like a jack and a block of wood, take off these straps, and then lower the tank down. So that'll be cool. I already replaced the fuel filter, so that's not an issue. Anyway, let's see. Since this is a pressurized fuel system, you're going to want to take out your gas cap to let off pressure there. And towards the front of the engine, since I have the fuel pump mounted in the back, the electric kind, on your fuel rail right here, this little Schrader valve, you're going to take this cap off and then push that the little valve in to release the fuel pressure from the lines. Because it's under 40 psi if everything is still tight. And you don't really want fuel squirting everywhere, so do that. Okay, with the electrical connector unplugged up there by the fuel, we can come over to the pump. And you see you got two hose fittings right here. They both have a 1/4 inch fucking hose clamps on them. So make sure you remember which hose goes to where. For mine, the bottom one is real short. It goes to this hard line right here, and the bigger one, I think, at the top, goes over here to the fuel filter. So, just remember that, or do some fancy things with hose clamps or something, or take a picture. Just remember which one goes where. It's suck to hook them up backwards. So after that, you can WD-40 them or something and break them loose real carefully, and keep continuing. Alright, in order to help drain the gas tank, my gas tank is 3/4 full right now. So take your outlet line right there, the one on top that goes to the fuel filter, disconnect it, and then you can just bring the line down, put it in here, into a gas tank. This is a little 5-gallon guy right here. So what I'm going to do is jump the fuel pump relay and just let the fuel pump suck out all the fuel and put it in this tank. I got a couple of these, so see if I can save some of my fuel. Alright, jump your fuel pump. You're going to come over here to the main block, and right here, this relay that I have is my fuel pump relay. Mine sits second from the front. I don't know if yours will be the same, but you're going to want to jump pins 30 and 87, and you can figure them out by looking at your relay. 30 is the only one. 30 is at the bottom right there. 87 is at the top. You can also look at relay diagrams if you can't figure it out. As you can see, 85 and 86 is the reference, and 87 and 30 is the output. So there you go. Just stick your paper clip in there like that, and let the fuel pump run. It's a lot easier if you have someone on the other end to let you know when your gas tank is full, but this might take a little while. Alright, filled this one all the way up, filled that one about halfway up, and I topped this one off, so gas tank is empty. Also, again, you're going to want to make sure the cap is loose so that it doesn't create a vacuum in there. You'll know when the pump's done because you hear it bubble. That's what my gauge sits at when it's at 0. I don't know, it seems a little high. Kind of been bouncing around, but I don't know. I guess you can't really rely on your gauge too much because that's how it was sitting for the last like 2 gallons. It's real close to empty. When you're sitting over here, it kind of looks like it's on the tip, but something interesting to note. Man, that gas tank lowered. Both our bolts broke, so fuck it. I got new straps, but now I gotta find new bolts too. Now I just gotta disconnect the gas line thing over there and whatever this T-fitting is. Unless I just tangled there. There you get more gas miles than you don't have them. Yeah. Cool. Definitely have yourself some jack stands to catch a tank if it falls. Don't lower that too far, it's just dangling by the rubber now, and this part. You had to disconnect that first.
Yeah, well, probably just get to it. Now that it's up there, you might be able to get to it from
oh, fuck. I'm
not sure.
There you go. This tank removal. Nice. Old tank, old plastic shield. I'm going to put the shield on the new one because it does do a decent job at protecting it. I might put like foam or something so that the plastic doesn't rub against the metal because that's what it looked like it did the old one. A bit of a dent right there. I don't really see the leak area though. Maybe somewhere over here. I don't know. Whatever. So now I'll have to take the fuel pump out. That's what the old unit looked like. Filtered a little bit. There's a little float right there. Well, alrighty then. I gotta figure out what to do to replace those bolts, and then after that we can continue. So, that's where we're at for now. There's a lot of room under there now. Pretty neat looking. So here's the new tank. Nice and shiny. Pretty cool looking. Got your 2 fittings over here. One guy there, one guy here, and then the main part where the fuel pump goes in. You'd be really surprised how light this thing is when it's empty. This thing is, you know, a tin can basically. But here's the fuel tank. Alright, it's gas tank time. So I was going to install a gas tank a couple weeks ago, and then realized I was missing some important parts when I'm like, oh, that's strange. If you notice, you got a hole here, and you got a hole here. Those are evap vent tubes. So you're going to need yourself 2 rollover valves, which allow gas vapor to exit the gas tank and follow down to the charcoal canister. But if for some reason you were to roll over, it's got a little ball in there, so that when it rolls over, gas doesn't start spilling everywhere. So you need 2 of those. That is Mopar part J5360058. And you're going to need some seals to go with those valves. So I got 2 seals. That's this part number right here, 52018823. So you're going to have to find them at some generic Mopar part seller. You're going to need the gas tank, obviously, so I got that guy. And you're going to need a new filter if you really care about your Jeep. So this is an all-in-one package. This comes with everything you need. Comes with the whole assembly. So you got your pickup tubes, you got your new filter, you got your new pump, you got your wiring harness, your fuel float, you have everything. And it even comes with a fucking lock ring washer, so you don't have to buy one of them. So, we're going to unwrap this doodad. And stick that on in the hole. So, let's do that. If you need help putting the fuel pump in, check your old one. If you look at the old one, the float and the filter are pointing towards each other. So check your new one to make sure that they are pointing towards each other. Mine was not, so I just had to rotate it until this little notch was lined up with that metal tab. Now the fun part, squeezing it all in. Might be able to do this one-handed. If you run into this problem, move the filter like that and just squeeze on the metal bar. You can pop it in there. And then the whole assembly will go in, turn 90 degrees to the right, and carefully lower it in place. And you can see it in the baffle down there. So, there you go. Ta-da! So then you got 2 little metal feeties that sit in there like that. And then let me check the ring. I don't know if the ring has to go on first or last or in between or whatever, but you got rubber and metal. Okay, the rubber seal actually goes on the inside. So if you look at this, there's an inner lip. So make sure that the seal goes in there. You don't have to take the whole tank out at the pump. You can just slide the ring around this. So O-ring, and then pump, and then lock ring on top of that, and that holds it all together and seals it up. Here's how these seals work. You're going to want to put the rubber in first. Work it around about halfway, then squeeze it and get this side in, and then push down here, and that'll get the rubber in. And then for this little rollover valve, you just pop it in. This is how mine were aimed. This one was aimed towards the corner, and the other one was aimed forward like that. So those are in there. Now line your pump up nice and lock ring in place. Okay, so for your lock ring, I had that on a little backwards too. You want the ring to face outwards, like that lip and everything faces outward, so that this curves up, not down. The curve isn't the first thing to hit these locking tabs. The flat part is. So if you notice, the flat part goes underneath, and then you'll just keep hammering. You'll keep hitting on this to rotate it around. So make sure the seal's in there good. Make sure that the pump is flush, and work that thing around. If this is an old tank or there's gasoline nearby, you want to be really careful and not create any sparks. Sparks and gasoline, no good. Since this is all new, I don't have to worry about it as much. So yeah, once that lock ring is hammered in place, you can start putting the gas tank in. So let me do that. Alright, with a flathead and a hammer, just sit the flathead underneath here and just keep tapping away. Do it on all 3 sides to make sure that it's properly lined up. So you'll see this one's good, that one's good, and that one's good. I'm going to leave the rubber boots on for now. So now we actually get to throw it into the vehicle. My stock tank came with a plastic shield. I've heard mixed results about whether this does any good or not, because it may protect it from some stuff, but at the same time, if dirt gets lodged in there, it'll just help it rub faster. But I'm just going to install it because, fuck, it's what I got. I think later on I'll think about getting a gas tank skid. So for now, the gas tank is going to go on top of the plastic plate. Then you have your new bands, your fuel tank straps that hold the tank up, and your new J-bolts, and some new nuts. I don't know if I showed you those. Okay, this is what the new straps look like. They have a funny looking hook thing going on at the end here. It's a bar wrapped around and welded. And then this side just got the hole. You're going to need 2 bolts if your old ones didn't last. These ones I got off Team Cherokee for pretty cheap. I think they still have, they actually come with the factory red Loctite on them. That's probably why the old ones didn't come off. Then from the hardware store, get yourself some washers. And I got some nylon locking nuts as well. So, they shouldn't fall off anytime soon. So, plastic skid plate. Notice at the tank, there's a curve right here that the skid also follows, so the skid goes towards the back. And now you just put it all in. Now, if your old lines over here, if your hose clamps didn't last, you'll have to pick up some new, some of them. I also came under here, and since I had the time, any rust spots that I found, I coated with some rust converter, I should say. So all the black stuff, that's what used to be rust, and it's now non-rust. So there's some over here, and some over there too. So it's looking good. So, let's do this. Okay, gas tank is up there. Now, I'm sorry I couldn't actually show you struggling around and squiggling to get this fucking thing in here, but I will give you some tips that will help you get this done a little easier. First off, before you do anything, before you even touch your fucking tank, these metal straps, put these fucking straps in first. These straps have to hook into the body up in there, and it ain't easy. So, before you put your gas tank on, get your straps on, because otherwise you'll have to bend them and fucking do all kinds of crazy fucking weird shit to try and get it in there. That was not fun or easy. So, besides that, the next thing that you're gonna try to do is squeeze your hoses into place. Now, if you notice that hose clamp might be a little big, it's more towards the smaller end of its tightening scale, but I put some WD in both the tubes to make the tubes, or the rubber hoses, slide onto the fittings a little better. So have your hose clamps ready. Make sure that they point towards the top. If you look, you probably can't see it, I can't even get you back there, but the smaller tube also has the screw towards the top like that. So you're gonna have to tilt the gas tank back, do the little tube first, and tighten that up, then tighten up the top one. Before you put those hoses on though, make sure you get your evap lines on. The evap lines stretch far enough that you can pop them on before you really get to do anything. I think that's on there. I hope so, otherwise I'd be pretty upset. Yeah, that's on there. And the same with this evap hose up here. That one you might be able to get to from up here actually. That's not too bad. But yeah, do the evap hoses first, and then do your rubber hose, your main fill and vent lines. So all that's on there and clipped. After you get those hooked up, you're going to take your straps and rotate them forward. Make sure you got your plastic skid plate on if that's what you want to put back. And then put your bolts in. I found it easier to start the nut on the very tip of this and then push the gas tank up and hook it into the hook instead of hooking the hook and then try to thread the nut on there because it kept falling off. So do that on both sides. This one was a little trickier. To get this one to seat, I had to push the gas tank up and back towards the bumper in order to get that hook in there. And then tighten it down until she's tight. The washers might not be necessary, but I got them, so fuck it. Alright, so now that that's all set up, you can start dealing with your pump up here. So you can take your protective caps off. And if you don't remember what does what or what goes where, look at your old one. So, our old pump, if you take a look, the physical pump itself, if you follow this rubber tube up, the line that sticks out farther and is towards the top, that is your feed line, or your supply line, whatever you'd like to call that. And then the return line is the bottom one that's smaller, because if you follow this, it's just a tube that literally squirts the extra pressure back into the tank. So, your supply line is at the top. So if you crawl back under here, here's your supply line, here's your return line. And if you follow your hoses, the fuel filter is where the supply line is. So this big long tube that's dangling around, will go into the top. So fuel filter to the top hose. And then your turn line to the bottom hose. There. Ta-da! I might put that clamp on the other way, but there you go. This has to be pushed on more, but I'm going to switch that clamp around. Now after that, all you got to do is plug in your electrical harness for your fuel pump to actually turn on. That's up there. So these guys will get connected, and it even comes with a little one of these guys, so you can actually clip it into one of these holes somewhere, I guess, to keep it up out of the way. So that's neat. So I'm going to swap that, tighten this up, and then we can put gas in the tank. That'll be cool. Alright, with the electrical harness connected up and put out of the way, let's see if we have a good connection. Let's turn the key and see what the gauge does. That's a good sign. So that right there is full empty. So if you see that, you know, emptiness, that's what that means. So it doesn't go any lower than that. That's good to know. So I guess when that light comes on, that's empty for you. Unless maybe it looks like it's lower from where the driver's sitting perspective-wise. I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with the connection or whatever. But yeah, so that's empty for me. So it's good. It's very good. So that means that all we gotta do now, put some gasolina all up in the fuel tank, and then you're gonna you can do this two ways. You can keep turning your key on and off, on and off, on and off to make sure that you pressurize the system, or you could go back and do that cool trick with the relay and jump the relay and just let that run until you think it's pretty much pressurized. But either way, that's about it. So I'm gonna put my my gas back in the tank and see if I get a leak. It's alive! It's alive! Excellent. Yo, man, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Alright, giggity. Start sounding a little rough. It didn't like starting at first. But a couple whacks to the starter, got that thing dislodged, and once the fuel pump got all the air out, it's running. We doing? You know how it is. It's cool, it's cool. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, keep it going. Come on, you got this. Yeah, baby. Needs a little work, but it's getting there. It's getting there. Yeah, buddy. Woohoo! That sounds good. Well, that's how you put in a gas tank and shit. Ta-da!